You've been to countless speech therapy appointments. You've practiced the sounds at home. You've tried every technique the therapist suggested and spent countless hours and thousands of dollars. Maybe you've even had a tongue or a lip tie revision for your little one. Yet your child is still struggling to communicate. They're still plateauing, still frustrated. You watch other children their age chattering away while your little one remains silent or difficult to understand. And you can't help but wonder, what are we missing? Here's what no one's telling you. Nearly 1 in 12 children in the U.S. aged 3 to 17 have experienced a voice, speech, language, or swallowing disorder. And the vast majority are receiving the same traditional approach that focuses on the output, the speech muscles and the sounds, while completely missing what's happening with the input and the coordination within the brain and sensory nervous system. The real problem isn't that your child needs more speech drills or muscle exercises to fix the output. The problem is that stress and interference within their nervous system is disrupting the very foundation of how speech develops and functions. So speech delays and other communication challenges are most often an input and a processing problem, way more than an output or an expression problem, which is why traditional speech therapy and other classic interventions alone may not be enough for your child to get the results that you so badly want for them. Let me tell you about Cohen, whose transformation perfectly illustrates what we're talking about. Now, before finding neurologically focused chiropractic care, Cohen had a severe speech delay with difficulty initiating sounds and very little sound production. His parents were struggling to find support beyond speech therapy because everything that they read stated that Cohen's struggles were neurological in origin. There must be some way to stimulate his nervous system that they kept asking themselves. And when they found pediatric chiropractic care, the scans revealed exactly what they suspected. There was a disconnect with how Cohen's nervous system was processing information and coordinating actions like movement and speech. And his parents said, looking through his scans and talking with the docs, it all made sense as to why he was struggling and why progress had been so slow. And then came the breakthrough. About 2 months into neurologically focused care, it seemed like a switch flipped for Cohen. He started producing way more sounds than before. He began initiating sounds and words on his own without prompting from others. And lately, he's just been talking away. And today, Cohen has gained about 3 years of progress in just 3 months, and his finishing speech services having met all of his goals in record time. So let's break down how speech actually works from a neurological perspective. Now, speech production is a complex, sequential 3-step process that most people don't understand. First, there's sensory and auditory signals are being received by the brain. Now, this is the input, and then the brain processes and integrates this information. And then finally, the brain sends coordinated signals to speech muscles, which is the output. Now, while most people assume speech delays stem from muscle problems in the output stage, the real issue typically occurs upstream within our brain and nervous system's input and integration phases. Now, when stress and subluxation and nervous system dysfunction interfere with these early stages, there is no amount of muscle exercises, no amount of speech drills that can fully compensate for the neurological breakdown happening within the brain. Parents, we got to understand subluxation and its impact on speech development. Now, when we talk about subluxation, we're referring to the misalignment, the reduced range of motion, and the neurological interference within our nervous system that disrupts the brain to body communication pathways. Now, this interference affects nerve signals controlling speech muscles. It leads to difficulties in motor planning, like with apraxia, and creates abnormal muscle tone and coordination issues in the mouth, the face, and the respiratory muscles. Now, birth interventions like forceps, vacuums, and C-sections can physically injure the delicate upper cervical or upper neck area and the brainstem regions that house critical nerves controlling speech and communication. Parents, let's chat a little bit about the critical role of the vagus nerve, its dysfunction in speech delays. Now, our vagus nerve controls the vocal cords through its recurrent laryngeal branch, and dysfunction leads to problems with vocalization, with pitch, with volume, and speech clarity. Proper speech production requires precise coordination of breathing and swallowing, both of which are directly influenced by vagus nerve function. Now, when the vagus nerve is dysfunctional, it dysregulates the autonomic nervous system and the stress responses, keeping children stuck in fight or flight mode, which further exacerbates speech and communication problems. Now, this is how we address the real root causes of speech delays. Our approach begins with identifying perfect storm triggers in a child's case history, particularly birth trauma and early life stressors, especially between ages 1 and 2 or 12 and 24 months, that have created neurological dysfunction. We then use the advanced insight scanning technology to precisely locate and measure stress and subluxation and nervous system dysfunction that conventional providers cannot, will not ever detect. You see, speech delays often aren't about the mouth or the tongue. They're about the brain and nervous system's ability to properly coordinate the 3-step process of input, coordination, and then the expression of speech. Now, chiropractic care works to restore the connection and efficiency of that pathway so that kids can find their voice, so they can get more out of speech therapy and get back on track developmentally. Listen, if everything that we've talked about in this video sounds all too familiar and you'd like to learn more about speech delays, the insight scans, and how to address this neurological root cause of your child's speech therapy may be missing, click the link within our bio, comment below, or send our office a DM.